Welcome back, everyone, to the Rebel Nutritionist Podcast. Today, I'm super excited. I have Shira McManus on today, and really excited to have you on, Shira. This is all about your story, what you've gone through, and so thank you for doing this. Basically, what I want to share with you guys is Shira and I, and then I'm going to let her talk about her whole story, so we're going to get into that. But Shira was working or has been working with me for a while, but originally sought me out for SIBO treatment. And she's going to get into her journey and her story and what we've done together and so forth. But I guess what I also really want to say, and a big part of what doesn't really lend itself to why we're doing this, I always like to do these kinds of podcasts with clients who have had great success in their journeys, because I think it really lends a personal effect to other people that are going through this, right? So it's one thing when I say what results people have had, very different when that person is here in the flesh and able to talk about it. And especially someone like yourself, you have got such a huge TikTok following. And I want to talk about that because I'm envious of that. But that has actually led to us receiving a lot of referrals, which we're grateful for. So I guess let's talk about your journey, who you are, talk a little bit about your TikTok experience, your TikTok community, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Before all of this crazy gut health issues, I was a really healthy 41-year-old. I've never had chronic health issues. I've always weight trained and done Peloton. And I guess at the time before this, I thought I was leading a quote unquote healthy lifestyle. And I thought I was eating good food, but this whole experience forced me to look at ingredients and not just macros. I think I was a typical female in that way and was like high protein, high fiber, and I wasn't looking at a lot of ingredients. So I was pretty healthy before all of this, and I did not set out to get a following on TikTok. I found myself very desperate after months of doctors telling me, GI Western medicine doctors telling me I was quote unquote normal and all my tests were normal and I was still sick. And so it was like one day in January, after a month or two of just feeling so sick, I posted on TikTok and was like, who else is dealing with this? Because this is insane. I don't understand. I've never gotten sick and just not gotten better. And that's how it started.
So were you, because it took a little while, you were doing your own thing for a little while before we got together. You want to talk a little bit? So you got people on TikTok and you started to create this community, but I don't think that was leading you down the road of, you were still feeling like you were getting the runaround. You weren't finding solutions is what I'm.
Yeah. It's such a long story because there were so many places I tried to find help before I found you. To start everything off, I got food poisoning and then thought I had gotten better from that. And then a month later got hit by the flu. And everyone else in my family got better. And it was like week 2 and I was still sick. And I was like, what the heck is going on? You normally get sick and then you get better. And I just stayed sick. And it was debilitating nausea. I ended up in the ER getting IV fluids because I was so severely nauseous and I felt like food would just not move in my stomach. And I had never felt that. I'd never had constipation issues. I had never had gut issues. And it was like a month or two of this. And I was traveling for a new job at the time. And so I went to a GI doctor, and I am not a crunchy granola person. I, in the past, have trusted Western medicine. So I go to the GI doctor and they, even with good insurance, it was thousands of dollars. They had me do an endoscopy under anesthesia, a bunch of blood tests. Of course, they offer what insurance will pay for. It's the steps they go through, and Western medicine is dictated by payers, which is insurance. And it can be infuriating because they want to cover up symptoms with prescriptions, like a Band-Aid. So she kept prescribing me things. And I knew literally in my gut that it was not what I needed. And I was like, I don't think that's what I need. And I don't want to be on a prescription. Something is very wrong. And I went through the process with her for a few months and didn't get better. And then finally, one of my friends who had some chronic health issues was like, have you ever thought about seeing a functional health provider? And I knew a little bit about it, but not a lot. So I saw one local in Austin, and he was helpful. He started me on basic things like glutamine and doing like a fast, 72-hour fast, a few different things. And it was really then when that I learned the treating the root cause that functional medicine is based on. And I did that, and I think I got maybe 20-30% better, but I was still debilitatingly nauseous. My food would not move in my body, and I was all of a sudden I could not eat high FODMAP foods. I couldn't eat dairy. I couldn't eat a bunch of things that I would normally eat. I never drank a lot, but even just a glass of wine would make me really sick. And I would go to bed crying, starving, because I couldn't eat without getting sick, and crazy bloating. And I just started to go down rabbit holes on TikTok and found a few things that I think marginally helped. I then started with the functional health provider in Austin to do finally did a SIBO test, tested positive, and I foolishly thought, okay, I have a diagnosis. Great. This is great. Now I can fix it. Little did I know that SIBO is one of the most complicated and impossible things to heal. There's a SIBO support group on Facebook that has over 200,000 people, and there are people on there that will depress you because they will say, I've had SIBO for 10 years, I've had it for 20 years, there's no cure. And I started to believe them. And I think now, a year and a half later on the other side, I realized those people did not go to functional health providers. They weren't willing to change their diet. They weren't willing to do a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of people become complacent and say, okay, I just have IBS, that dreaded bucket that GI doctors put you in when they are too lazy to figure out what's wrong with you. And I would not accept that I was just going to be sick for forever. So I did 2 weeks of antibiotics, the neomycin and the rifaximin, which are most commonly prescribed, which I later learned the efficacy rate is like under 50%. And I also learned you typically have to do multiple kill protocols. Oh my God, I just thought at the beginning, I was like, okay, I did the 2 weeks, now I'm better. And of course, then I wasn't. It was all this false hope of all these different protocols, and then a ray of hope thinking, okay, I'm better. And then I'd eat something and be really sick for a week and wonder why I wasn't better. I did a 6-week herbal kill protocol. And then I was trying to do the rebuild phase, the reintroduction of food phase, and I was still sick. And I think it was around month 7 or 8. And then I called you. And I know you're probably used to hearing from people when they are desperate and they've already tried everything. And I was like, I'm a hot mess. I need a miracle. I need you to help me. I've done everything. It's been 8 months and I'm still sick. I need help figuring this out.
Yep. That was through the tears, right? So, thank you for that. We're going to keep going with that, but I kind of want to interject a couple things. And more to your point that almost every single phone call that I get that's around gut stuff, SIBO stuff it was exactly your story, right? But where people have gone the traditional route, they've gone on the medications, they've gone to functional docs and have gone on protocols. And I think the difference, one of the main things that I want to highlight in the way that we really need to pay attention to this and that I want people to really hear is that everybody's journey is different. So to be handed a standardized protocol, whether it is a antibiotic protocol, which again, highly ineffective, even for people, I've had people like yourself and others who have done 2 and 3 and 4 rounds of the antibiotics. And yes, for a few weeks they're better. And then it just comes back because again, they haven't gotten to the root. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday. She's been on that protocol and not better. And I think, and then what happens is a lot of people then get concurrent diagnoses because their providers just want to, like you said, oh, I got a diagnosis, I felt better. Because I think what happens is people want to feel validated, that it's not that there really is something going on and I'm not making this stuff up. So when you get a diagnosis, it's almost, okay, I know what I have, I can treat it. And I think that's where then what happens is people get concurrent diagnoses. So for example, I've got people now coming to me all the time because MCAS, right? Mast cell activation system syndrome. is now the big buzz thing. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what we can label you as. Let's not walk around with that label, because then it becomes our identity. And that's a whole other thing that we need to talk about with people, because I don't want people to just be identified as their disease or as their condition. I'd rather say, I have a person who has SIBO, not SIBO is my life. And it's the same thing with MCAS, right? People are now coming and saying, oh, I had SIBO and now I have MCAS. And I'm like, no, it all starts in the same place, right? You've got to get to the root. And you really have to have someone who's understanding what that root is. It's not just look at the supplements that you throw at someone, and you have to do them, you have to really know the person you're in front of, right? And understand when we did our work, it wasn't just the SIBO. We were also looking at your immune system. Right? And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's what I think a lot of people don't understand is SIBO creates a cascade effect in your body. And I did not know that until I was very far in. I thought, okay, I did all these things to heal my gut. Why am I still sick and so reactive to coffee and dairy and onions and garlic? It wasn't till I did the testing with you that you brought to my attention that my immune system was totally dysregulated.
Right. So that's what I try and explain to people, that if you don't have someone who's digging deeper and understanding, here, there was a trigger and that triggered the SIBO, but what else is going on below the surface that we need to pay attention to? And then what, as a result of that, becomes compromised, whether it's your nutrients, whether it's all of those things. I think that it's really important for people to hear the process is a process. Sometimes the diagnosis is the process of really understanding, peeling away the layers and figuring out where we're going with this. And then also, I think the other part of this in the diagnosis piece is the mindset piece. And we had talked about that quite a lot. And I that's something that I feel not enough people are either understand about or are willing, right? It's understanding mindset and energy. And I know you've done some work in that area. Can you speak to your beliefs about what your belief is about getting better? Like you said, okay, I heard that it took 10 years. That messes with your mind, right? I'm never going to sugar from this. What were the things that you did from that mindset and energetic perspective that kept you going?
I think there's two barriers to entry when it comes to functional health for a lot of people, based on the thousands of DMs and comments I've gotten on TikTok. Number one is money. People do not want to spend hundreds of dollars on functional health. And I get it. I put it off for a while because of the financial part of it. And number two, I think they can do their own research. In the world of AI, I thought I'm going to pay $500 for this comprehensive stool test, and I'm going to plug the results into ChatGPT, and it's going to tell me what to do. And I tried that. ChatGPT is wrong a lot. And also, what worked for other people is not necessarily going to work for you. I joke that if you ask 20 different people what they did to heal their SIBO, you're going to get 20 different answers.
Right.
And I found these creators on TikTok who went through what I went through, and I saw their posts from a year ago with SIBO and then their posts today, and they were eating and drinking everything. And I was like, oh my God, they got better. What did they do? And I tried to copy the same supplements, and guess what? It didn't work for me. So I think finally my husband was like, what are you doing avoiding paying money to get better? This is your health. I can't think of anything else that's more important to spend our money on than you not being sick. Just, yes, it sucks, but it's worth it. So I think those are two things that are hangups maybe, and just realizing that it is so nuanced from person to person, and you have to do specific labs, whether it's a comprehensive stool test, the blood and urine tests I did with you, and you have to unpack that with a trained professional, not AI. But as far as the healing process, I am the most impatient person on the planet. And I foolishly thought at the beginning I would do this one thing and I would get better. I'm a straight A student. If you give me an assignment, I will do it. And I will expect results. And this is not something you can just throw all your attention at and check a box and get better, unfortunately. SIBO is a lot of one step forward, 3 steps back, and the progress was not linear. And I would add in one supplement and think, okay, this is going to help me. And then it would make me kind of sick for a week or two. But then all of a sudden I'd feel a little better. And then a month later, I would try to layer in something else. So it's like very slowly layering things in and knowing that the goalpost is going to move, which is really frustrating. But I found when I was at my sickest, maybe a year ago, I was very hopeless because with chronic illness, there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
You have days where you're like, I might be sick for the rest of my life.
Right.
My husband and I cook and entertain and eat out and we travel, and food is a big part of our lives. And my marriage suffered and my relationships with friends suffered. My whole social life was on hold. It affected my mental health so much. The anxiety of going out to an event with friends or a restaurant and not knowing what was going to make me sick, what was in the food. So there was a lot of anxiety, and the gut-brain connection is very real. Sometimes I wasn't sure if my anxiety was making me sick or my sickness was making me feel anxiety.
I both.
It's a constant loop. So I found that the videos I would find online of like hope of people saying you can get better were really powerful, and I needed that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm trying to post on TikTok now. And I have so many people who are really sick right now messaging me being like, oh my God, I'm desperate. What did you do? I think that's why I've been able to send so many people to you. And I didn't post trying to do that. It's just people are very desperate because they've already tried so many different things.
Yeah. Yeah. And to no avail. And I think, like you said, start going down this rabbit hole of I'm just never going to get better. And I think something you said is it is a slow process. And yes, we as humans, the emotional creatures that we are, we're like, okay, I'm going to do this and this, like you said, linearly. And I expect to feel this and this. And I still remember getting multiple text messages or the messages from you like, I'm not feeling any better, and this is the shitting. And I'm like, please. When we have these conversations, I'm like, just trust me, trust the process, trust that this is going to work. And there were times we had to pivot, right? But this is why I say you have to work with a practitioner who is going to listen, right? Someone who, when I put someone on a protocol, I'm like, you need to let me know in 2 or 3 days how you're feeling, because we may have to pivot. We may have to change on some of these things. We have to really see how the body is responding, because everybody responds so differently to different supplements or different protocols or different foods or whatever it is. And so I think understanding that it is nuanced and having a practitioner who will listen to that is really what functional medicine should be rooted in. Functional medicine should not be rooted in, here's a supplement, I'll talk to you later, here's just a list of protocol and let me know how, and check in a month. It really, so I think that's one piece of it. And yes, the other piece is the expense, and these tests are expensive. They're not covered by insurance. And look, I always say to people, I'm not upcharging on the test. I don't, right? Because I feel like you're working with me and you're paying for my time to interpret the test. So I'm not double dipping, right? There are plenty of people who do it. That's their prerogative, and that's fine. All to say that I am very aware of the financial aspect of let's put it this way, a medicine that is not covered under insurance. It would be nice if we could find the day and see the day that functional medicine is recognized just as Western is and is covered by insurance, because people have a right to advocate for their health, to feel good, and they're paying so much money for insurance, and shame on these companies that are not reimbursing for functional medicine. And
I think that also I tried to stress to people, they'll message me and say, how much money did you spend? How many points did you have to do? And I always remind them, listen, not all functional medicine providers are created equal. A lot of them, like these pseudo trainers on Instagram, they're like not experienced. They make a one-size-fits-all training program for weightlifting for people of all different backgrounds. And you have to interview whatever functional health provider you're hiring. And if you get a good one who knows what they're doing, you're not going to be paying them for years and years.
Right.
You might only have to do 4 appointments with them or 6 appointments if they really know what they're doing. And obviously I know it depends on their health issues, but if you hire someone that knows what they're doing, it shouldn't be this forever thing you have to do.
My feelings is you invest on the front end, and the back end will provide dividends that were far exceeded what you spent. If you think about it over time, the time and the money and the energy, add that up in dollars and cents and see what it comes out to. I will tell you, it's pennies compared to what we charge. I think that's hugely important for people to understand and to be willing to lean into. And I think that's the other part that you said. You can't do this work and not do the work, right? You can't enter into it. Like you said, you've got to really be willing and able to do what is asked of you for the time that is needed to really see the benefits, to go into this and think, what are you going to say?
I think it's like hiring a personal trainer. You can pay them for the best workouts ever, but if you're eating fast food 5 days a week, then it's going to be a waste of money. And do you feel like most of your patients, their expectations really have to be managed with the time frame?
Oh my gosh, yes. I have all day long, right? I have people who say to me, I've been doing this protocol 2-3 months, and why am I not completely healed? And I said, this is not how the body works. I think if people really understood what what happened, if our skin was clear, we saw what happened underneath the surface, how the body works, what that biochemistry looks like, how gut health works over time. Again, like anything, like what you said, it's not linear. The body doesn't respond. People come to me and say, I've done what you asked, right? For 2, 3, 4 months. I'm like, no, this is years, right? And it's not just, and I think it's not like something you go on and off of. And I think that I speak to that all the time for people who forget about just gut issues, chronic illness where people have not healed. I said, look, I'm a cancer survivor. I did this work to heal and to recover after I got my treatment. And I have been a work in progress ever since. I never went back. I always just going, right? I have always been, how do I elevate my health? How do I elevate my longevity? That's what I want people to get. That this is not just, I am healing my gut. Yes, I'm healing my gut so I can get back to feeling like the human that I used to feel like. But if you learn anything, it's about how do I then take this and continue to use this for my health and longevity as I age? Because look, none of us are going backwards, at least not yet. And so I really think that's such an important message that I want to share with people, that this work, in my opinion, should never end. It's always about how do you make your health better? How do you improve upon what we've done?
I remember when you started me right off the bat on all these supplements from Vimergy, and I spent a decent amount of money getting all of them. I went on a trip to Europe. My whole carry-on was all of my crazy supplements. It was so much work and I was so diligent. And then after a couple months, I was like, okay, I'm done. And you were like, no. You're going to be taking these for a while. I thought I would finish the bottle and I was good to go. Right. And I'm still taking the majority of those supplements now. And I still get DMs and comments saying, are you normal now? Can you eat anything now? I'm like, yeah, I can eat anything, but I don't choose to eat garbage because why? I'm in my 40s, and I think there's a very sharp fork in the road when you're middle-aged and you're going through perimenopause and you're a woman, between your friends who've always taken care of themselves and their friends who just kind of got by. Oh, yeah. Because your friends who just started trying to get by are starting to not look so great and not feel so great. So yes, I can go eat Taco Bell every day, but I'm not. And I choose to eat, 95% of the things that I eat from home because I can control what goes in them within reason because I want to look and feel good.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important point, is that could you go back and eat the stuff that was garbage? Sure. Is that a good idea for anybody? Forget about with any kind of history? No, because again, if what you put on the end of your fork will determine your health in the long run. It just does. And like I said, that longevity of it is, how do I really want to manage my health moving forward? And what do I want my health to look like in my 40s and 50s? Because here's what's going to happen. is that women who are going through perimenopause and in their early 40s and then start to get, if you don't get your foundation together, I was going to say shit, but if you don't get your foundation together at that point, you're going to get into menopause and it is really going to be a shit show because a lot happens not because of menopause per se. A lot happens because the foundation with which you're going into it is just unstable. And that's where the rubber really meets the road for women and even men. Men go through andropause at some point. All to say that, yeah, this journey should start as soon as it can.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, there's a book by Dr. William Davis called Super that some of it applied to me, some of it didn't, but it was really interesting. And I think he said that like more than half the people who have SIBO don't even know that they have it. And I follow a lot of these content creators on Instagram and TikTok, what I eat in a day, and it's like all these beautiful fresh fruits and vegetables. And I will look through the comments. And just today, I saw 10 comments on this one girl's video who has 1 million followers saying, how do you eat all those vegetables? I get so bloated every time I eat. They do not understand that is not normal. Your body should be able to handle fiber and raw vegetables and beans. And people so quickly become complacent with everything. There are people who become complacent with, no, I just have to take Tums every day. Or I just have to take Pepsid AC every day. Or no, my back just always hurts. You should not be bloated after every meal. And I think a lot of women are, because we have to deal with hormones. We just chalk it up to hormonal issues. And I think most people, I have girlfriends who saw me go through this whole ordeal and they were joking, wait, maybe I need to get some of these labs because I have some of the things that you're talking about. So people accept their norm as normal.
Well, because again, the conversation, prevention isn't sexy. You're not going to the doctor and they're not looking at your labs. First of all, they're not even doing the right kinds of labs. But think about it. Most people go to the doctor, they do their routine, just minimal blood work, and the doctor, okay, you're fine. But nobody really, or is it the rare person who's looking at the doctor and going, oh, but what can I really do to optimize my health, doc? What can I do to make things better? Nobody's doing that. And nobody's looking at the doctor and like, where's my vitamins and minerals? And, oh yeah, how is my immune system? And how is my gut? Nobody's really doing that, right? We're accepting normal for normal and just thinking that, you're right, like you said, oh, I've been constipated my whole life. Oh,
yeah. People take Miralax every day for their whole lives. And when it comes to the testing, one of the tests my GI doctor did, which she was like, we're going to do a stool test. I was like, okay, that sounds really unpleasant, but fine, I'll do it. Let me tell you, if you're pooping in a bag, it's not fun. It's not great. I drop it off. And then afterwards, find out they only tested for H. pylori because that's all insurance will cover. Yeah. And I said, wait a minute. I didn't have the wherewithal at that time because I wasn't as educated as I am now to say, no, I will pay cash if I'm doing this. I want you to test for everything. Right. I didn't know to ask for that. And I was like, wait, you tested for one thing? I don't want to have to do that again.
Yeah. No, and it's true, right? So again, there's that people are misled because they think they've done a stool test. I get that too, right? Oh, I've done a stool test with my doctor. I'm like, not nearly comprehensive enough. And they don't necessarily understand that. And educating people around that, I think, is super important. And then the other thing that I think that you said that I want to circle back on, because it is so in everyone's face, which is that whole AI thing, right? And I do get people all the time, oh, I did my function health and I did my stool test and I did my genetics and I did this and I threw it all into ChatGPT and this is what it told me. And I'm like, great, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, whatever it is, right? Claude, any of those. Sure, it'll spit out what was fed in, right? And the algorithms and all that kind of stuff that fits here's the result, here's what you should do based on that. But unless you have someone who can look at the big picture as a diagnostician, which I think requires the human, to really put these pieces together, AI is just linearly going, this is what you have, this is the correlation, and this is what you need to do. But nobody's looking at the context. And the biggest piece is the mind-body connection. We know the gut-body connection. We know if there's stress, if there's nervous system dysregulation, if there are lifestyle things, environmental exposures, all of these things are huge. that AI never takes into consideration, right? Your relationship, your trauma. That's a huge one. I don't care, big trauma, little trauma, mild stuff. If you're not looking at your relationships over time, right? Where you grew up, all of that. And AI is not looking at that. And I think that's the other missing piece that so many people don't realize. I have had a conversation recently with a client who came with gut issues and ongoing gut issues. SIBO is one of them, but there's other things. We start digging deep into her timeline. There's a significant amount of trauma that has contributed over time to what is going on, right? When your body is in fight or flight and survival all the time, it is not in rest and recovery and repair. And you need to be in that if you're going to heal.
That's crazy. I know ChatGPT can be helpful. When I was reintroducing food, it created a schedule for me to how long to eat garlic and what quantities and then what ingredient to do next. So it can be helpful, but not really when it comes to diagnosing and treating specific.
I think, all that adjunctive stuff, great. You want to make up a meal plan, wonderful. You want to do all that stuff, look, it's wonderful to be able to do that. But I think ultimately at the root, it's never going to be able to do what a human can do in terms of interpret, right? I want to ask, I know we've gone through most of your journey, but what would, I guess part of it is like you said, where you're telling people, okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And what would be that moment for you that you were like, all right, I know I'm healing. I got this. That this is working. Do you remember when that moment was? And you're like, because you talk about I felt hopeless. What was the moment that you were like, oh wow, I'm better?
My diet was pretty limited. I think people's world gets really small with what they're eating because they slowly eliminate foods and then they can't eat anything because they're so reactive. I think the big, most important thing when people say they want to heal is, I think it's two parts. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And you made me realize this. The first part is the kill phase. You have to get rid of the bad bacteria. But unfortunately, herbals and antibiotics get rid of the good stuff as well. So there's a big rebuild phase. And I remember I did the SBO kit phase 1. It was 90 days. It was like 1 million pills. And I did it and I was like, okay. And I was still kind of scared to reintroduce food. And you were like, I highly suggest we do a rebuild phase. There's a phase 2 SBO kit. And I slowly added in like sodium butyrate. But I really had to build up the good guys in my gut again. And I was scared to add in food because I had done it and gotten just false hope so many times, thinking, okay, I'm better. And then I'd add in a food and then would get sick. And I remember having a conversation with you, telling you all the things I was doing. And you were like, wait, you can't eat garlic or onion or beans? And I said, I don't know. And you were like, you need to try. It's time. And I was like, okay. I think I was scared. I just got so used to those things being off limits. So I was like, okay, Meryl said it's okay, so I'm going to do it. And I started with 1/4 of a teaspoon of cooked garlic for a few days. It was like, okay, little reaction. My anxiety was so heightened every time I would eat something new. It was scary. And I would be a little bloated. And I was like, okay, let's go up to 1/2 a teaspoon. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon. And as soon as I could tolerate a decent amount of cooked garlic in a meal, then I was like, all right, let me move on to onion. And it was like, oh my God, I'm okay. And my husband and I cook nonstop. It's our love language. And we make homemade marinara and really healthy stuff and beans. And so I'd gotten used to making like crappy low FOD marinara. And I slowly started to add in like the onions. And this was months. It took a really long time. I am typically like full throttle, no patience. So I had to really learn to not take that approach. And then I was eating apples. I missed apples so much, and cherries and all the high FODMAP fruits and vegetables. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to try lentils. Those are supposed to, that's okay. I tried lentils and then slow tiny bits and then beans. So I slowly built up, and then it was like, oh my God, I am going to be normal again. This is crazy. The no coffee thing killed me. I love coffee and I want to be a tea drinker, but I hated it. I tried to gaslight myself into putting half and half into my tea, and it was just never the same. So I slowly was able to enjoy coffee again. And I, for work, will bring coffee to doctor's offices and wasn't able to enjoy any of that for months. And finally, I remember getting Starbucks for one of my clients and enjoying that coffee. And I texted a picture of it to my husband and said, "Oh my God, I just had coffee for the first time in over a year with one of my offices. This is a miracle." And I wanted to cry. And every time we'd go out to eat and I'd have a meal, it would be like a 12-hour waiting on pins and needles. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to get sick? And I didn't. I used to, and it was very scary. And then once in a while having a glass of wine and being like, "Oh my God, I didn't die. I'm not sick. I'm okay." So it was very slow and gradual, and it was baby steps. And I still pinch myself when I can. I love cooking more than anything. And when I can make an amazing bean recipe with goat cheese on it and onions and garlic, it's amazing. It feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for that. I think people do need to hear that, with the caveat that, yes, it takes time and everyone's journey is different, but that there is hope even for those people that have been living with it for 10 years. If you've been living with it for that long, you just haven't met the right person to treat you.
Oh my God. I have comments like that, and I say, "Have you seen a functional health provider? And if not, why?" And they say, "I never thought of that." And my mind, it's mind boggling to me. I had lunch with a client who was a doctor in his 60s, and he has severe gut issues. And we were eating lunch talking about all the things he can't eat. He's a doctor, a urologist. And I said, "Have you ever seen a functional health provider?" He said, "I don't know what that is." And he laughed at me. I think, from what I understand, the research on gut health is 20 years old. It's in its infancy.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just now learning about it. And they are not teaching that in the curriculum at med school. And it is so sad for the people who they just don't know. I have all these comments, people who have been sick for 15 years. I'm like, why are you accepting that? Invest a few $100s, get one functional health provider appointment, make 2 appointments, do 1 lab if you can't afford it, do something. And they just accept being sick, and it is insane to me. I just refused to accept it.
And good for you. And again, good for the people that are out there. But I think, like you said, what I would say to a lot of these people out there, whether they're physicians, I've worked with physicians as well who haven't been able to diagnose themselves through the modern medical system, because modern medicine's great at acute illness, right? You break a bone, send me to the ER, great, all day long, right? You have appendicitis, great. But anything that is a chronic, long-term health concern is not treated through modern medicine because it's not in their toolbox, right? The medical schools don't teach nutritional biochemistry. A doctor, I hear this all day long, "Oh, my doctor said I should be on XYZ diet." I said, your doctor knows that from probably a commercial they saw on TV, certainly not from their training. And they have no clue about nutritional biochemistry, nor should they be making, really, they're not qualified to make nutritional recommendations.
And the nutrition thing, most people don't understand that 80% of your chronic health issues can be fixed a lot of the time with diet. And I think people are in denial about how powerful food can be.
Oh, 100%. And because a lot of people don't want to change. Yeah, they don't want to hear that I can't have this, or I shouldn't have this, and they want to do everything else but that, or the whole exercise piece. Like, we could talk for hours about all of these different things. I think suffice to say that looking at when a regular physician says, "What is functional medicine?" shame on them for not really advocating for their own clients who need to be treated, right? And not all functional medicine providers, just like not all physicians, are created equal. And I think you do have to interview and make sure that you're not just ending up with a lot of tests and false hope and just supplements, right? You've got to really make sure that someone knows how to put all these pieces together for you. And I think that's me. So, all to say, we are beating the same drum, and I appreciate your time in explaining all of this. And I think other people really do need to hear it from you, right? From someone who's gone through it, who's now on the other side, who was deep in it, in the despair, and now can lead a normal, healthy, vibrant life.
Yeah.
I think as a result, I do want to talk because I want to be mindful of our time, but tell us on what you're doing now. You've got this new venture. I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think as cheesy as that saying is that this whole thing happened for me and not to me, I had to believe that at times because I spent my 20s and 30s just wanting to look a certain way and caring about health. And now instead of having a protein bar with 50 ingredients or a protein powder with 50 ingredients because it has good macros, I'm now looking at what the ingredients are. And so many things in our food system have been made to be shelf stable because companies want to make money. And I think also consumers want convenience, and I get that. But I think there is a happy medium. You do not have to spend 8 hours cooking every Sunday. And so my husband and I love entertaining, we love cooking, and there are so many things that we now make at home that are not shelf stable, and we take pride in that. Marinara, salad dressings, making your own bread, baking things. And so we created a brand called Shelf Unstable, and we have Chef Unstable. We have a lot of friends who are always asking, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm like, oh my God, if they knew how simple this was. We're not trained chefs. We figured this out. Making your own bone broth. It's cheaper and it's better for you than any garbage packaged collagen supplement. There's so many things you can do at home, and we love teaching. My husband loves teaching, but I have found that I guess I like it too from the TikTok situation. So we created this idea to basically be half dinner party catering and half education cooking class. And the idea is we're going to have people get maybe 5-6 couples at their house, and everyone pays a certain amount, and it'll be a different theme. We might have like Italian night where we teach you how to make your own marinara, store it in mason jars, put it in the freezer so you can meal prep it. We're going to do a homemade ramen one where we teach you how to make your own bone broth because it's cheaper and it's healthier for you. And so I'm so passionate about ingredients now. And I do protein powders every once in a while, but I get the ones that have 5 ingredients, not 50. And I am a busy working mom, and I get it that people don't have time, but it doesn't have to be complicated. We put aside an hour or two on Sundays, and I whip together a dressing in a mason jar, and it lasts the whole week.
Yeah.
Because I think starting in like the 1940s, a lot of food manufacturers started to add emulsifiers and things and gums and things that really disrupt the gut to make things look pretty on a shelf. And I don't know, packaging is just the FDA. It's like the Wild West. They really do not monitor a lot of things.
Nope. No. Well, not only do they not monitor, but they allow so many questionable, unhealthy, unsafe ingredients. Everybody follows the food babe, and you follow all these women who are championing for better food labeling and better product and getting out all of the garbage and the chemicals in our food. It's crazy what's going on. And it's a travesty, really, because who it's really affecting is our kids, right? The younger generation who's eating all this garbage food and packaged and processed food that's loaded with chemicals and is just disrupting their hormones and their guts and their immune systems. And so it's terrible. But I love that you're doing that. Not only, I think there's a component, I've always said this, I always have felt like the downfall of our society has been the disintegration of the family meal, meaning community, sense of community, sense of connection. So the fact that you're doing this and you're bringing together people, and it is a sense of community and it's offering connection. I think there's something so special in that and so wonderful and beautiful. And I love that you guys are doing that. So I'd love to be able to support you no matter what that looks like. But
yeah, I was never a great cook, and I think then COVID happened, and the number one piece of advice I can give people is just don't be afraid to screw up in the kitchen, because that's how you learn. There was a lot of trial and error, and I think our goal is to take people from all their different skill levels and make them realize they can build on that, and you don't have to be intimidated, and cooking should be fun. There were a lot of meals that I would make that did not turn out right, and I learned from it. And now a lot of times I can kind of use a recipe as a blueprint, but I don't have to. And you have to just be okay with experimenting, and it's okay if you mess up.
Listen, I feel like that all the time. People always say how you're such a good cook. I'm like, I wasn't trained. I over my whole life, been self-teaching and modifying and redoing. And when it's very rare that I have a recipe because I just want to experiment. And if it doesn't come out good, I'll do this all the time. They'll come over for dinner and I'll make something and they're like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, oh, but I needed to do this, right? But it comes with trial and error. And like you said, I love that you said you just keep experimenting, right? So if something has too much of something or too little of something, the next time you change it. But it's not like anything bad is going to happen. I think that people are afraid. There is this intimidation factor that we really need to get over. And I think we also need to learn in society where it's so fast and fast moving and fast paced and everything is go. We need to slow things down a little. If we really want to, and I tell this to my clients all the time, yes, I know we want convenience and I know, but here's the thing. There's a price to be paid both with our bodies and our health for convenience. So we've got to find that happy medium of where am I willing to maybe spend a little more time in the kitchen, spend a little more time prepping for my health, because otherwise on the other end, I'm going to pay for it.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be, like I said, hours in the kitchen. I think we'll front load 2 hours of effort on a Sunday, and then during the week when we're running around for kids' activities and work and school, we don't have to cook every night.
Exactly.
So it really is time saving,
Yeah.
and it, like the choose your hard, either
Choose your heart. Exactly. It's all hard.
Right.
It's hard being sick. And yes, I've always loved that. Right. But yeah, so I just, you and I could probably talk for hours, but I do want to complain of the fact that we both have things to do. But I really want to say thank you for trusting me with your health. And I'm always humbled to be able to help someone, and also grateful for you sharing the story, because it definitely has helped us. And look, we are just looking to change lives for the better, right? I always say I want to heal one person at a time, and that's the work that I'm so passionate about and that I love doing. So thank you for allowing me to help you and subsequently help others. And any last words?
I just want people to realize they don't have to live a mediocre existence, that they can get better, and to be advocates for their own health, because you really do have to fight, because the system is really not set up to advocate for us, unfortunately.
Yes, I love that. So thank you. We will be sharing all of your contacts so more people can follow you on TikTok for all your great stuff that you do. I'm going to have to, offline, we're going to have to talk about the things that I need to do, because I'm definitely an amateur when it comes to that. But we will do that, and we'll be in touch. And we hope that this has touched you in one way, shape, or form. And if you know someone who would benefit from this, please share this and subscribe, and can go follow Shira for all her great stuff. And we will see you on the flip side. This is your Rebel Nutritionist signing off. Make it a great day, everyone.